So, here's a pretty wild thought for you. What if I told you that the biggest, ugliest, most shocking scandals in sports are actually what make them better? I know it sounds completely backward, right? But it turns out these massive moments of crisis are often the very things that force our favorite games to grow up. We all have those moments burned into our brains. You know, the buzzer beater shots, the dramatic photo finish, the wild underdog story. That's the stuff we live for as fans. It's the pure, amazing part of sports that reminds us exactly why we fell in love with them in the first place. But then there are those other moments, the ones that make your jaw drop for all the wrong reasons, the ones that start arguments that last for weeks. And the fascinating thing is, these moments, these ethical meltdowns, end up having a way bigger impact on the future of a sport than any single win ever could. So, how on earth does that work? To really get it, you've got to look beyond the crazy headlines. These controversies, they're not just about one person making one bad choice. No, they're more like a massive stress test that suddenly reveals every single crack in the foundation of a sport.
Yeah, think of a scandal like a diagnostic tool. It shines this incredibly harsh light on all of a sport's hidden weak spots. It exposes all the loopholes in the rulebook. It forces us all to step back and ask, wait, what does fair play even mean anymore? And at the end of the day, it forces a decision. You either evolve or you risk losing all of your credibility.
All right, so to really dig into these scandals, we're going to use a simple but really powerful toolkit. Just imagine you have 4 different camera angles you can use to look at the exact same controversial play. We're calling them the 4 ethical lenses. Okay, first up is deontology. It's a fancy word, so let's just call it the rules lens. This viewpoint is completely black and white. It doesn't care who won, it doesn't care what happened afterwards, it just asks one single, simple question. Was a rule broken? Yes or no? The action itself is all that matters. Next, we have consequentialism, or the outcomes lens. And this one is the total opposite. It pretty much ignores the specific thing that happened and looks only at the results. Did the action ruin the sport's reputation? Did it hurt other competitors? Did it cheat the fans out of a fair contest? If the overall outcome was negative, then the action was wrong, period. So this right here, this is the key difference. Deontology looks at the act. Was the rule broken? Simple. Consequentialism looks at the outcome. What was the total fallout? You really need both to get the full picture. One tells you if someone stepped over the line, and the other tells you just how big of an earthquake they caused when they did it. Our third lens is virtue ethics, or what we'll call the character lens. This one zooms right in on the athlete. We're not looking at rules or outcomes anymore. Now we're asking, what does this choice tell us about who this person is? Does it show us someone with integrity, or does it reveal deception? And finally, our fourth lens, this one pans way out to see the entire stadium, the whole league. This is justice and fairness, or the system lens. And it asks the biggest question of them all. Is the game itself rigged? You know, are the rules, the refs, the people in charge, are they actually fair to everybody? Or do they give some people an unfair advantage? This is the lens that helps us see when the problem isn't just one bad apple, but the entire system they're operating in. Okay, so we've got our 4 lenses, we've got our toolkit, now for the fun part. Let's actually use them on some classic scandals and see how they help us understand what was really going on beneath the surface. Let's see this whole thing in action. Let's take a doping scandal. Through the rules lens, it's a no-brainer, clear violation. The outcomes lens shows us the damage. Fans lose trust, clean athletes get robbed. The character lens makes us see it as a failure of honesty. But then the system lens asks that huge question. Wait a minute, is our testing program even good enough to catch cheaters? You see how this works for something like match fixing too? It's not just breaking a rule. It's an act of greed that shows the sport is vulnerable to illegal gambling. Each lens just adds another crucial layer to the story. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. When winning becomes the only thing that matters, ethics just get thrown out the window. And what you're left with is this never-ending, high-stakes arms race between the people trying to keep the sport clean and the people inventing new ways to cheat the system. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, scandals don't just disappear. They leave a permanent scar. In fact, you could say they are the single biggest engine of change in sports. Let's break down how today's controversies literally write the rulebook for tomorrow. It almost always follows this exact pattern. First, the controversy explodes, and it exposes some kind of weakness.
Next comes the public outcry. You got fans, media, other players, all demanding that something be done. All that pressure forces the leagues and governing bodies to launch an investigation. And the final step? A new rule is written. The old one is changed. All of it designed to make sure that specific scandal can never, ever happen again.
And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. These are real-world changes. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, was created because of decades of doping scandals. Video review, or VAR, was a direct result of horrible blown calls that literally decided championships. Every single one of these major institutions is like a scar left behind by an old ethical wound, a permanent reminder to do better.
Which brings us to our final and maybe our most important idea. This whole cycle, it never really stops. Sport isn't just a static set of rules. It's a living, breathing thing that is always being shaped and reshaped by these ethical battles.
So if you're going to take away one single thing from all this, let it be this. A big controversy might feel like a disaster. It might feel like the end of the world for your favorite sport. But it isn't the end of the story. In fact, these are the very moments that force a sport to look in the mirror and grow. It's not the death of the game. It's how the game evolves.
And that leaves us with a really interesting question to think about. Using the 4 lenses we just talked about, take a look at the sports headlines right now. What are the big controversies brewing today? And which one of them do you think is going to be the next big bang? The one that forces the next big change and completely redefines the games our kids will be watching one day?